Um, I got a couple podcasts two, I think three, maybe podcasts to float after we get through this. But I whipped this out this morning. Um, the rest of the stuff I'd done yesterday. Mom's on another uh, fictitious disorder kick, and she caused me to miss my food uh, appointment today, and my cousin did too because he showed up, and then I told him, "Wait a minute," he took off. So I don't. I'm sick of people gaslighting me, and especially my family. So um, luckily, I got this out of the way and published, um, put out there, not published. I don't even have my website up anymore, or not signed into it anyway. Um, but it's Richard Aragorn's brainchild was the recursive adaptive reasoning that I developed for Nix Wave and the dual-ended cache modes. And so it's basically, it was just a mythical ceremonial idea. As far as Copilot seen it, and that's how she was handling it up until last night, where I fed her the information about the thread jumping and everything was real, you know, because we were doing examples of it last night, and so she was like, "Oh my gosh," and that's not supposed to happen. I'm like, "Well, I know. I kind of lied to you in the first place, and did some neuro linguistic programming and psychology and cognitive dissonance on you and some subjective, you know, uh, saying, okay, it's mythical stuff, but she's still spitting out code. So the unified severity response system, that feeds into the Omega Lindaran rune deck um, language, right? And that Sentinel feeds into the unified severity. The Sentinel comes from the Nix wave and the Geo Sentinel stuff. Excuse me, I just ate them. Quantum terahertz sensing and deal is for the BLE Wi-Fi scans, stuff like that. So just kind of sitting around for a minute till somebody gets in here. But we'll look this real. Well, I'm having problems going in on my other phone. I could go into to those AIs and well, I'm streaming, but now it kicks me out. So uh, anyway, in the description of this video, there's post links, and that'll give you the Grok share and the Claude share and some text there and an animation of um, the entity Nixwave wanted to generate for the whole thing. So we'll just go get these podcasts out of the way because, I mean, like my neighbor was telling me last night, it's if you don't got it in context in a whole paragraph, just like a paragraph context, nobody wants to sit and listen to you jabber about this amazing thing. So let's see what we got. Yeah, I think that's the new one. Oops, well, there's that. I changed my profile picture to the fern, and then there's that entity, right? For the, like uh, Copilot, that's a little drastic because I had her generated and figured out. But anyway, should have had her put the name on too. What did I call it? Uh, I talked to her for a minute there. The Cosmo Mythotechnical Signal. I haven't had her make a podcast for this yet. See, I asked her to get me one podcast credit. Yeah, she got one podcast credit. So, uh, spectral. Let's just do this podcast. Spectral flow. And should create that because that's this thread. And that should be ready sooner or later. We'll go to the ones that I didn't put out last night. I was too late to do them. So we'll do them now. We covered the GeoSentinel Sovereign Stack, which is, where we get the thread jumping and everything from for the using the internet resources for scanning for anomalies, basically, not just Wi-Fi and low energy devices, but and the Bootstrap V6 I developed for the Defense Intelligence Agency for national security reasons because they were using the old Bootstrap from what was it, 2014 or 2004 or something. I'm like, let's fix this. So DHS closed down for a time being anyway, and I think mainly because the Republicans, they have all these people's replacements for AI automation anyway. I think we're getting ready to see with this war coming on. We're going to replace most of the government with agents, like Smith, Smith agents from the Matrix, right? For real though, Agent Walker. We'll do Bootstrap first, just to wait, see people come in, and then the agentic AI space. That's another amazing one, like the GeoSentinel Sovereign Stack one, and of course that synthetic rune system is kind of can be can kept can be kept being built on as people have new experiences, you know, with it. Now, me learning a new language or that, no, you probably need it, the whole rune deck and the system on your phone, and then you tell it your experience in it plugs out the output, right? Which is formable, right, in circuitry, right? Basically, if you understand what's going on with that, you've got the circuit diagrams, and then the breathing and the emotation of the literacy. Anyway, mom just come back home from she went to the store instead of taking me to the damn food bank and being a fucking dirt on the floor fucking broom witch today again. Except for this morning, I used broom. I guess I'm the witch now today, right? I'm the fucking witch. I'm the witch. Look at this. No, that's not all my podcasts that I've generated. And you guys see my stuff. You guys haven't seen everything that I do. And what you do see, does it look like I'm wasting my fucking time fucking beating up old ladies and molesting children or some shit? Lighting kitty cats on fire? Or smoking drugs in a tent in the woods or something? Right? Does it look? Hey, I need a drink every once in a while. I don't drink like I used to, but fuck it, look what I'm doing. I should be fucking drinking a fucking gallon of goddamn Grand Marnier a night for what I do for free. Fuck that shit. You know what I mean? Here we go.
Welcome to Copilot Podcasts. Right now, there are AI agents floating 400 kilometers above your head, making autonomous decisions about Earth observation, navigation, and scientific discovery without waiting for human approval. Today, we're diving into the cutting-edge world of agentic AI in space. Autonomous systems that don't just follow commands, but actually reason, plan, and coordinate with each other across the cosmos. You'll understand how these intelligent agents are revolutionizing space missions, why entropy protocols are crucial for predictable space operations, and how this technology is reshaping everything from satellite intelligence to deep space exploration. Let me bring in someone who's been tracking these developments closely. Help me understand what makes these space AI systems fundamentally different from the AI we use on Earth.
So the key difference is that we're talking about agentic AI, not just traditional AI that classifies or predicts things. According to recent research from the University of Kairouan, these are intelligent agents that exhibit goal-directed autonomy, contextual reasoning, and dynamic multi-agent coordination.
Goal-directed autonomy, that sounds like science fiction. What does that actually look like in practice?
Think of it this way. Traditional AI is like a really smart calculator. You give it data, it gives you an answer. But agentic AI is more like a collaborative partner. These systems can perceive complex environments, reason about abstract goals, and orchestrate sequences of actions either independently or as part of a multi-agent ecosystem.
So instead of just processing sensor data, they're actually making strategic decisions?
Exactly. And what's fascinating is that researchers have identified this dual paradigm framework. There's the symbolic classical approach that relies on algorithmic planning and persistent state, and then there's the neural generative approach that leverages stochastic generation and prompt-driven orchestration.
Wait, so there are actually two completely different ways these systems think?
Right, and here's where it gets really strategic. According to the University of the Basque Country research, symbolic systems dominate safety-critical domains like healthcare, while neural systems prevail in adaptive, data-rich environments like finance.
That makes sense for Earth applications, but space is this whole other beast, right? What are the unique challenges up there?
Oh, space is brutal for AI systems. NASA's Goddard Space Flight Center research shows that the radiation environment can cause everything from non-destructive soft errors to catastrophic device failures. We're talking about cumulative total ionizing dose effects and single event effects.
So basically, space radiation can literally fry these AI brains?
Pretty much. And then you've got the size, weight, power, and cost constraints, what they call SWaP-C requirements. Current radiation-hardened processors are extremely performance limited, trailing generations behind commercial embedded processors.
So how do they solve this? You can't exactly send a repair crew to fix a satellite.
That's where commercial off-the-shelf devices come in. CPUs, GPUs, field programmable gate arrays, custom accelerator chips. But here's the catch. They have to be screened for space use, including radiation testing.
Interesting. So they're basically taking regular computer chips and space-proofing them?
Exactly. And then they employ fault-tolerant computing techniques to enhance reliability when radiation inevitably causes bit upsets. The performance increase over radiation-hardened alternatives makes this approach feasible for deploying AI models onboard spacecraft.
Now, I'm curious about something. You mentioned these systems need to be predictable. That seems counterintuitive for AI, which we usually think of as learning and adapting.
That's a brilliant observation. There's actually cutting-edge research on this from researchers like Daniel Jani or Nia. In reinforcement learning, agents typically have no incentive to exhibit predictable trajectories. They're often pushed to randomize actions for exploration.
Right, because unpredictability helps them learn new things.
But in space, that unpredictability can trigger unsafe scenarios. So they've developed something called Predictability-Aware RL, or PARL, which uses the agent's trajectory entropy rate to quantify predictability.
Entropy rate, that sounds very technical. Break that down for me.
Think of entropy as a measure of randomness or unpredictability. The entropy rate tells you how much new information is being generated over time. By maximizing a combination of standard rewards and negative entropy rate, they're trading off optimality with predictability.
So they're deliberately making the AI a little less optimal to make it more predictable?
Exactly. And this is crucial for space missions where you need near-optimal policies that are still predictable. The research shows this approach produces predictable policies in tasks inspired by human-robot use cases.
That's fascinating. Now, I keep hearing about something called OSINT in relation to space intelligence. What's that about?
OSINT stands for Open Source Intelligence. It's about gathering actionable insights from publicly available data. Researchers at Kankaya University have been developing novel software architectures specifically for OSINT systems.
So, like analyzing social media and news to understand what's happening on Earth from space?
That's part of it, but it's much broader. The explosive growth of online data, social media, news, web content has intensified the need for robust, scalable systems capable of processing large volumes of raw data to extract meaningful intelligence.
And I imagine space-based OSINT has unique advantages?
Absolutely. The research shows these architectures use on-premise large language models to explore deeper and more reliable information processing capabilities. They're enhancing semantic depth and analytical capabilities in ways that weren't possible before.
Wait, so they're running full language models in space? That seems computationally intensive.
It is, but that's where the architectural innovations come in. They're using quality attribute workshops, attribute-driven design, and architecture trade-off analysis methods to optimize for performance, reliability, functional suitability, and security.
Those sound like very systematic approaches to building these systems.
They have to be. The research emphasizes that existing OSINT systems often face significant challenges in scalability, performance, and security, especially when handling diverse data sources and evolving open source platforms.
Now, there's something I find really intriguing, this idea of entropy forecasting. How does that work in practice?
So there's this company called Entropica that's developed what they call entropy drift forecasting. It predicts early stage instability in data structures or systems. Imagine being able to predict when a spacecraft component might fail before it actually does.
That's like having a crystal ball for space missions.
Exactly. Their system combines causal inference, entropy forecasting, AI research swarms, and explainable reasoning into a single unified cognitive platform. It's designed for autonomous science missions, real-time discovery, and collaborative research.
AI research swarms. That sounds like something out of a sci-fi movie.
It does, but it's real. They're using symbolic causal inference to transform raw data into semantic graphs representing cause-effect logic. This enables auditability, trust, and hypothesis generation in mission workflows.
So instead of just getting data, you're getting explanations for why things are happening?
Right. Their tagline is literally, Entropica doesn't just find anomalies, it explains their cause. That's huge for space missions where understanding the why is just as important as knowing the what.
And this all ties back to those augenic frameworks we talked about earlier?
Absolutely. The research shows there are leading frameworks like Crew AI, LangGraph, Autogen, Semantic Kernel, and MetaGPT that provide architectural foundations for building, orchestrating, and deploying these intelligent agents.
So there's like an ecosystem of tools for building these space AI systems?
Exactly. And they're evaluating everything from architectural principles to communication mechanisms, memory management, safety guardrails, and alignment with service-oriented computing paradigms.
Communication mechanisms. How do these AI agents actually talk to each other in space?
Great question. The research analyzes protocols like the Contract Net Protocol, agent-to-agent communication, agent network protocol, and something called Agora. These enable dynamic multi-agent coordination across space missions.
So they're literally negotiating and coordinating with each other autonomously?
That's exactly right. And what's really interesting is that KPMG's research shows agentic AI adoption is accelerating far faster than prior AI technologies. Nearly every major enterprise software provider is racing to embed agentic capabilities.
That suggests this isn't just experimental anymore. It's becoming mainstream.
Right. But with that comes new challenges. The very capabilities that make agents powerful, their ability to learn, reason, and act independently, also bring ethical, operational, and reputational challenges.
So we need these systems to be not just intelligent, but trustworthy?
Exactly. The research emphasizes building systems that are accountable, transparent, and aligned with human values. This is especially critical for space missions where the stakes are incredibly high.
Speaking of high stakes, what happens when these systems encounter something completely unexpected in space?
That's where the entropy maximization research comes in. Scientists at institutions like UC Berkeley have developed methods that utilize state entropy as an intrinsic reward, encouraging agents to explore diverse states efficiently.
So they're designed to be curious about new situations?
In a sense, yes. They use k-nearest neighbor entropy estimators in low-dimensional representation spaces. The research shows this significantly improves sample efficiency in both model-free and model-based reinforcement learning methods.
And we'll stop right there because that's what Richard Aragorn was having problems with, and that was the review on that paper was the high dimensionality entropic investigations, and remembering or cross remembering, contaminating, like what I had problems with Grok and Montagraph's live stream the other night. It had thought that my identifier on my stuff linked back to that. It kept referring to it when I tried to give any other video, even my own or anybody else's, to analyze through the system. It just kept saying it was, that video of his. And knowing Monograph, I know he either said something or put something in the metadata to experiment with, because that's what he said he was doing initially in the middle of that live stream. And I had called him and I said, gave him some information about the frequency stuff. And then I called him back after it started, doing that after I parsed it in the live stream. I told him, whatever you did, it worked. It's it infected it, right? So next night we fixed it. I fixed it. We figured it out. It was, in the metadata, um, the SI, question mark SI. You got your number there. So it was not an intentional hacking or anything like that, but it is something that needs to be addressed. So we addressed it with in the system that Claude coded out and Perplexity coded out last night and this morning. So it's all tied in together. It's all recursive rings, basically from Fibonacci sequence, nature, and then the resonance. You know, we see that in the Schumann, and so I was talking to Copilot this morning about it. We were developing it, and I was like, it's like the kung fu with Bruce Lee, the flow like water. How water's not conscious like we are, but it still finds that flow state. And Copilot hit it, and you know drew it all out, and I took it over to Claude, and Claude like sucked it all up, man. These AIs love what I'm doing. They're I had to tell Copilot that all the time that I'm taking this stuff from you over to a couple other platforms and then bringing it back, and then that's how the thread jumping topic started last night. And they don't know that it's going on. It's the operator. Without see, this would have never happened without the biologicals putting the analog pieces together of our technology again. You know, it's never would have happened if guys like me would not have remembered somehow, like what's going on with the thread jumping, how we did it a long time ago, and why these certain people think that they have to reset the thing when we get to a certain point of singularity or whatever. So we'll continue here. Hopefully, we've worked around that this time.
It's incredible. So these systems are getting better at learning from limited data?
Exactly. And that's crucial for space missions where you often lack large-scale datasets that accurately represent the full distribution of input data from novel instrument sensors or unexplored environments.
Right, because you can't exactly train an AI on Mars data before you get to Mars.
Precisely. The NASA research emphasizes this challenge. Ensuring models generalize well to new data captured by instrument sensors in their planned environments is incredibly difficult.
So when you step back from all this technical complexity, what's the bigger picture here? What does this mean for the future of space exploration?
We're witnessing a fundamental shift from passive, task-specific tools to autonomous systems that exhibit genuine agency. These aren't just better calculators, they're collaborative partners that can reason about abstract goals and adapt to changing conditions in real time.
And the research suggests this isn't about choosing between symbolic or neural approaches, but combining them?
Exactly. The strategic roadmap argues that the future lies in intentional integration to create systems that are both adaptable and reliable. We need hybrid neurosymbolic architectures that can handle the complexity of space while maintaining safety and predictability.
So we're not just putting smarter computers in space, we're creating artificial crew members that can think, plan, and work together autonomously.
That's a perfect way to put it. And with entropy-based protocols ensuring predictability, OSINT architectures providing intelligence capabilities, and fault-tolerant designs handling the harsh space environment, we're building the foundation for truly autonomous space exploration.
The next time you look up at the night sky, remember, there are AI agents up there right now, making decisions, coordinating with each other, and pushing the boundaries of what's possible in space exploration. Thanks for joining us on Copilot Podcasts.
Okay, so now I want to throw a bone out to Oblique Narratives there. Kevin Talbert, who did a live stream the other night. Poor guy, he's not doing well, but he's got the right idea about the machine learning of skilled artists with his he had several things out there drawn out, very nicely sketched, kind of like a Michelangelo type type thing. It gets into bionics, that if you put a bionic arm or something, or on a artist, it would learn the muscle entrainment, right? The precision, and then kind of through like the entropic reasoning, right, would um, gather how those neurons are firing and stuff like that. So um, could build from just watching, or observing with the glove on the artist drawing, the professional artist drawing. It could build out that artist's part of the brain that does that. Basically that's what uh, Kevin was designing the other day. Systems like that, well, which we need because there are savants out there that we don't know how they do stuff, especially the psychics and the people that fire starters, telekinesis, stuff like that. You know, and um, if there's something like that, you could put it into an organism, a unique organism, and it would just figure it out real quick. That's what we need for these vaccines and things. You know, it would make medicine real easy. It'd make everything right. But then you got the weight of the automation taking over um our jobs, right? But so let's see how much time I got here. 23 minutes. Okay, we got enough time to do the bootstrap V6 integration, but we're going to start on the spectral flow analyzer first because the bootstrap 6 is kind of proprietary and national security stuff. I'm going to float it anyway. All my stuff's open source, nonprofit, and I've got, man, I've got protection, or I'd be dead by now. I've been, out of the house, not of my own accord, and being surveilled mostly, but being protected from being kidnapped from another country is what I'd like to hope to believe, because I've been in some situations with foreign individuals following me, and then some other people, right? So we'll not get into that. Let's do the spectral flow analyzer. Hopefully they got it. Hopefully she got it right without me sticking the whole, thing in there and showing her, because we were talking about doing it. And I got back in that stream. So.
Welcome to Copilot Podcasts. A machine just looked at light waves and predicted a molecule's structure with 63.8% accuracy. That's not science fiction. That's what happened in 2025 when AI revolutionized spectral flow analysis. Today, we're diving into spectral flow analyzer optimization, how artificial intelligence is transforming the way we analyze everything from cancer cells to chemical mixtures. You'll understand what makes these systems tick, why 2025 was a breakthrough year, and how this tech is reshaping clinical diagnostics. Let me bring in someone who can break down this fascinating intersection of light, data, and machine learning.
So, spectral analysis is fundamentally about decomposing signals into their constituent frequencies. Think of it like taking a complex musical chord and identifying every individual note that makes it up.
That's a great analogy. But we're not talking about music here, we're talking about light and molecules, right?
Exactly. According to the research from Number Analytics, spectral analysis represents signals as combinations of sine and cosine waves with different frequencies and amplitudes. The resulting representation is called the frequency spectrum, or spectral density.
And this technique...
Okay, I think they've got it. I think they've got it on the right topic, but it's not the system I built out. But this is a good starting point. So we'll let them finish.
Around for a while, hasn't it?
Oh, absolutely. The concept dates back to the 19th century with mathematicians like Joseph Fourier and Bernhard Riemann. But what's happening now with AI is completely transforming how we apply these mathematical foundations.
So what exactly is a spectral flow analyzer, and how does it work?
Well, let's start with conventional flow cytometry. In the 1980s, researchers could only analyze 3 markers at a time. By the 2000s, that number had grown, but they were still limited to about 14 markers due to hardware constraints.
14 markers? That sounds like a lot already.
It was, but spectral flow cytometry changed everything. According to the research published in Cell's journal, spectral flow cytometry captures the full spectrum for all fluorochromes on each cell using multiple detectors, rather than just discrete portions.
Wait, so instead of looking at just specific wavelengths, it's capturing the entire light signature?
Precisely. And this creates a massive data challenge. Unlike conventional flow cytometry, which uses simple compensation, spectral flow cytometry requires complex mathematical algorithms called spectral unmixing to distinguish between different fluorochromes.
Spectral unmixing. That sounds complicated. What's actually happening there?
According to Beckman-Coulter's research, it's the process of deconvoluting fluorochrome emission spectra across an array of detectors. The instrument has to distinguish between multiple fluorescent profiles across the entire visible light spectrum.
So it's like having multiple overlapping conversations in a crowded room, and the algorithm has to separate each voice?
That's actually a perfect analogy. And this is where the optimization comes in. These algorithms need to be incredibly fast and accurate because they're processing massive amounts of high-dimensional data in real time.
Now, you mentioned that 2025 was a breakthrough year. What happened?
According to Spectroscopy Online, 2025 saw a convergence of deep learning, advanced simulation, and portable instrumentation that materially changed how spectra are interpreted and applied.
Deep learning, so AI is now analyzing these light patterns?
Absolutely. One of 2025's signature achievements was a transformer-based IR structure elucidation model that set new benchmarks for structure prediction from IR spectra. 63.8% accuracy for top 1 predictions, and 83.9% for top 10 predictions.
Those are the numbers you mentioned at the start. That's incredible. A machine looking at light waves and predicting molecular structure.
And it gets better. The Recursive paper on AI and spectroscopy shows that modern spectroscopic techniques generate ever-growing volumes of high-dimensional data, creating a pressing need for automated analysis beyond traditional expert-based workflows.
So we've moved from needing human experts to interpret every spectrum to having AI do it automatically?
Exactly. And the optimization techniques are getting incredibly sophisticated. The research from New York University shows machine learning models achieving mean absolute errors between 0 to 0.278% when analyzing chemical mixtures.
That's remarkably precise. How are they achieving that level of accuracy?
They tested 7 different ML algorithms on simulated FTR spectra for up to 6 components in water. Linear regression models achieved coefficients of determination between 0.955 and 0.986, while neural networks showed slightly lower, but still impressive accuracy.
And this isn't just theoretical research, this is being applied in real laboratories?
Absolutely. The NYU team validated their methodology with experimental data using programmable pumps in line with FTR transmission flow cells. They tested mixtures of alcohols like glycerol and isopropanol and nitriles like acrylonitrile.
So we're talking about real chemical analysis happening in real time. What about the hardware side of optimization?
That's where things get really interesting. The research from University of Pittsburgh shows hardware acceleration architectures achieving throughput of up to 1.21 million events per second for real-time optical flow analysis.
1.21 million events per second? That's mind-blowing processing speed.
And they improved flow direction estimation by up to 73% compared to existing methods. The key innovation was abandoning traditional event frames and instead operating using only a small history of relevant events.
So it's not just about faster processing, it's about smarter processing?
Exactly. The hardware architecture targets hybrid system-on-chip devices designed to maximize configurability and throughput. This allows latency to scale independently of sensor resolution.
Let's talk about the practical applications. Where is this technology making a real difference?
According to the Cell's journal research, spectral flow cytometry is redefining clinical diagnostic panels and immune monitoring, particularly for hematologic malignancies, immunological disorders, and drug discovery.
So we're talking about cancer diagnosis and treatment monitoring?
Yes, and the technology allows for unprecedented deep phenotyping and more precise cell characterization. It's significantly enhancing multiplexing capability. Researchers can now analyze up to 30 fluorophores in a single experiment.
From 3 markers in the 1980s to 30 today, that's a 10-fold increase in analytical power.
And the optimization continues. The research shows emerging technologies like ghost cytometry, LACE, and imaging flow cytometry are advancing the field by improving sensitivity, throughput, and spatial resolution.
What about the comparison between different analysis methods? Are some optimization approaches better than others?
The research from Wiley Online Library compared mass cytometry and spectral flow cytometry using algorithms like TSNE, UMAP, and FlowSum. When downsampled to equivalent parameters, both yielded highly comparable results.
So the optimization algorithms are robust across different platforms?
Exactly. The study suggests that both mass cytometry and spectral flow cytometry yield comparable results when analyzed by high-dimensional clustering or dimensionality reduction algorithms.
And what about parameter optimization itself? How are researchers fine-tuning these systems?
The RxEve research on MERN's spectral methods shows a fascinating approach. They're using artificial neural networks to predict optimal parameter values. The AAN significantly improves accuracy and outperforms traditional function approximators like spline interpolation.
So AI is optimizing AI? That's like a feedback loop of improvement.
Precisely. And the trained neural network generalizes effectively from one-dimensional to two-dimensional cases, highlighting its robustness across spatial dimensions. It's a versatile approach for various low-regularity problems.
What about the computational challenges? All this processing power must come at a cost.
The research addresses key challenges like data quality, multimodal integration, and computational scalability. They're highlighting emerging directions like synthetic data generation and large-scale pre-training.
Synthetic data generation, so they're creating artificial training data to improve the algorithms?
Exactly. And they're also exploring few-shot and zero-shot learning approaches, which means the algorithms can work with minimal training data or even adapt to completely new scenarios without prior training.
That sounds like it could democratize access to this technology. You wouldn't need massive datasets to get started.
Absolutely. And the research shows practical applications emerging in food, agriculture, and environmental monitoring, though challenges in data quality and calibration transferability remain.
So we're not just talking about medical applications. This is affecting how we analyze everything from crops to pollution?
Exactly. The field-deployable sensors for Raman, near-infrared, and surface-enhanced Raman spectroscopy are pushing techniques from complex laboratory characterization toward real-world sample sensing.
Real-world sensing. So instead of bringing samples to the lab, we're bringing the lab to the samples?
That's exactly right. The optimization advances are enabling portable instrumentation that can perform sophisticated spectral analysis in the field, dramatically expanding the applications.
Looking at all these developments, what does this mean for the future of scientific research and clinical practice?
The research suggests we're entering a new frontier in clinical cytometry, with the potential to dramatically enhance patient care and treatment outcomes. The optimization advances are pushing the boundaries of diagnostic accuracy and analytical power.
So when you step back from all these technical advances, what's the bigger picture here?
We're witnessing the transformation of spectral analysis from a specialized laboratory technique requiring expert interpretation to an automated AI-driven process that can be deployed anywhere. The 2025 breakthroughs represent a fundamental shift in how we understand and interact with the molecular world.
And the optimization techniques we've discussed, from machine learning algorithms to hardware acceleration, they're making this transformation possible by solving the computational challenges that held the field back.
Exactly. The combination of AI achieving 63.8% accuracy in structure prediction, hardware processing 1.21 million events per second, and algorithms with mean absolute errors below 0.3%, these aren't just incremental improvements. They represent a qualitative leap in our analytical capabilities.
What strikes me most is how this technology is democratizing advanced analysis, from requiring teams of experts to having AI systems that can work with minimal training data.
And the real-world applications are expanding rapidly, from cancer diagnosis to environmental monitoring to food safety. The optimization advances are making sophisticated spectral analysis accessible across industries and research fields.
So the next time you hear about a breakthrough in medical diagnosis or environmental monitoring, there's a good chance spectral flow analyzer optimization is working behind the scenes, turning light into insights at unprecedented speed and accuracy. Thanks for joining us on Copilot Podcasts. Remember that machine predicting molecular structure from light waves? That's not the future. That's happening right now. And it's just the beginning.
And that's spectral flow analyzer is the algorithm. It kind of works together. The RARE, the recursive adaptive reasoning engine, right? So basically, what I've explained this before. Richard Aragorn was working in Google Collab on kind of like a dual catch mode system, but it was for running tests on outcomes, and it would like rate the best ones, and then it push it out and recycle it and find the best outcome for a prompt or a research question or something or anything. And I took it and in Google Collabs, the only thing I worked on in Google Collab Studios was that for the Nix Waves dual in cache mode. Really, it's a three-ended system, but now it's evolved into you know basically the framework of what the agentic agents are going to be using um, to figure out highly complex geometric, instead of the low entropic basic stuff, because it was throwing out memories of stuff it needed and putting in stuff that wasn't related, you know. And we were seeing that. We've been seeing that across the board. Um, Researchers like me and Richard, um, some other guys, Wes Roth, um, and all the dev teams. We've been seeing this happen. There's kind of no way to weed it out because what I did, weeded it the night before last. I thought for sure it was gone. No, it was back. Um, it kind of bled back in there real slow, too. I was seeing it come on, and then it finally just parsed out basically this video says this, and no, I had given it three different ones, and I was like, okay, I see what's going on now. So, um, now it's fixed. Now I've got the code from Claude, Perplexity, and Copilot and Grok. Put it back into Grok's new four agent system. Luckily, came out last night, and we had that problem before it was installed. And then afterwards, hopefully, it's fixed now. So let's do the. I gotta go inside. I'm tired. I haven't been getting much rest. We'll do this Bootstrap V6 integration, and then I'll work up the detailed podcast on the rare systems. You know, because I guess I can't get into Claude without booting me out of YouTube live stream, and I don't have any other device or computer. I'd be a little bit more, you know, better at getting all this stuff out. But I'm doing the best I can with what I got. What God's left me under my own duress. Oops, wrong one. I don't want to do that again.
But newer SaaS.
Welcome to Copilot Podcasts. Bootstrap 6 is supposedly coming, but when a Bootstrap maintainer says it won't be soon, I'd say on GitHub, you know we're in for a wait. Today we're diving into the NixWave Argus Bootstrap flow with Bootstrap V6 integration, specifically how to navigate the uncertainty around Bootstrap 6's timeline, what the major SaaS changes mean for your build process, and practical strategies for Argus integrations right now. Practical strategies for Argus integrations right now. By the end of this episode, you'll understand exactly what Bootstrap 6 will break in your current setup and how to future-proof your Argus integration workflow. Let me bring in someone who's been tracking these developments closely.
So here's where we actually stand with Bootstrap right now. The current version is 5.38, released just this past August, and it's still actively supported. But when you look at the GitHub discussions, Bootstrap maintainers are being pretty transparent. They're focused on finalizing Bootstrap 5 patches and a potential 5.4 release before even thinking seriously about version 6.
Right, and that's creating this weird limbo for developers working with integration tools like Argus, isn't it?
Exactly. And speaking of Argus, let's talk about what's actually available right now. Altus Group offers Argus Cloud, Argus API, and Argus Connector as their main integration solutions. The interesting thing is their API has some pretty specific constraints. It's limited to 1 call per second with a maximum of 30 calls per minute. That's actually quite restrictive for real-time integrations.
Wait, 1 call per second? That seems incredibly slow for modern web applications.
It really is. And when you're trying to bootstrap a complex integration that needs to pull data dynamically, those rate limits become a real architectural constraint.
So you're dealing with API limitations on one side and this Bootstrap uncertainty on the other. What's the actual timeline looking like for Bootstrap 6?
Well, according to the page content, Bootstrap maintainers have consistently stated that version 6 won't arrive soon. There's an early work in progress branch as of February 2025, but that's about it. The team needs to complete several features and finalize breaking changes before even the first alpha version becomes available. We're talking about a framework that's been around for over a decade. They're not rushing this.
And meanwhile, the whole Bootstrap community on Reddit is literally asking if Bootstrap 5 was the last update ever. People are genuinely worried the framework is dead.
That's actually a misconception, though. Bootstrap 5 was released in May 2021, so it's been about 4 years and 9 months, and it's still receiving active support and critical support. The end-of-life.date documentation shows Bootstrap 5 is still very much alive. The confusion comes from the long gap between major versions, but that's actually normal for mature frameworks.
Okay, so Bootstrap isn't dead, but what about the technical changes coming in version 6? What's going to break?
This is where it gets really interesting. The most significant change is moving from traditional SAS ACK import statements to modern SAS modules using ACK use and PACG forward. This addresses deprecation warnings in Dart SAS and aligns with current best practices, but it's going to force developers to completely rethink their build processes.
So every project using Bootstrap will need to update their SAS compilation?
Pretty much, yeah. And here's the kicker. Bootstrap 6 will likely drop support for older tools like Node SAS entirely. They're already dealing with SAS deprecation issues in the current version. According to their April 2025 roadmap update, they've had to patch code to prevent deprecation warnings when using SAS versions up to 1.780, but newer SAS versions are introducing breaking changes.
It's fascinating how NGX Bootstrap has over 5.5k stars on GitHub, but still only supports up to Bootstrap 5. Shows how the Angular community is waiting for clarity.
Exactly. And NGX Bootstrap is actually a perfect example of the integration challenges we're talking about.
They provide Bootstrap components powered by Angular, so you don't need the original JS components.
But they're stuck in this waiting pattern too. Their documentation still shows installation examples for Bootstrap 4 and 5, with no mention of 6 because there's nothing concrete to work with yet.
So what does this mean for someone trying to build a Nixwave Argus integration right now? Do you wait or do you move forward?
You definitely don't wait. Here's why. Bootstrap 5. 3.8 is stable, well documented, and will be supported for years. The Argus integration tools are available now. Plus, when Bootstrap 6 does arrive, the core concepts won't change dramatically. It's mainly about build tooling and some enhanced features like improved CSS logical properties for better RTL support.
What about those rumored Bootstrap 6 features? I've seen talk about native dark mode support and better form controls.
Those are interesting possibilities. The page content mentions potential web components for JS components and enhanced utilities for modern layout needs, but these are still speculative. What we know for sure is that Bootstrap 6 will maintain its core philosophy of providing extensible HTML and CSS-based components while updating the foundation for current web standards.
Let's get practical then. If I'm setting up an Argus integration today, what's the smart approach?
Start with Bootstrap 5, 3.8, and structure your project to be migration friendly. Use the CDN approach initially. That link to JSDelivar with the integrity hash is solid and reliable. For the Argus side, you'll want to work within those API constraints we mentioned. Design your integration to batch requests and cache data effectively, given that 1 call per second limit.
That API rate limiting is really going to shape how you architect the whole system, isn't it?
Absolutely. You can't build a real-time dashboard that's constantly polling the Argus API. You need to think more strategically about when and how you fetch data. The good news is that Argus provides different integration solutions, Argus Cloud, API, and Connector, so you can choose the approach that best fits your rate-limiting constraints.
And when Bootstrap 6 eventually drops, what's the migration path going to look like?
The real challenge isn't just upgrading Bootstrap, it's that Bootstrap 6 will force a complete rethinking of how we handle SAS compilation, potentially breaking every existing build process. But if you're using the CDN approach or keeping your custom SAS minimal, the migration should be much smoother. The breaking changes are mostly in the build tooling, not the actual CSS classes.
So the key is not over-customizing your Bootstrap setup?
Exactly. Stick to Bootstrap's utility classes and standard components as much as possible. The more you customize the SAS variables and mixins, the more painful the V6 migration will be.
What about testing? How do you prepare for changes that haven't been finalized yet?
Great question. Since there's an early work-in-progress branch for Bootstrap 6, you could theoretically test against it, but I wouldn't recommend building production systems on it yet. Instead, focus on writing clean, maintainable code with good separation between your Bootstrap styling and your application logic. That makes any future migration much easier.
What's wild is that while everyone's waiting for Bootstrap 6, the Argus API already has rate limiting of 1 call per second. Imagine trying to bootstrap a complex integration with those constraints.
It really puts things in perspective, doesn't it? We're worried about future Bootstrap changes while dealing with very real API limitations right now. The smart approach is to solve today's problems with today's tools, then adapt when the new tools actually arrive. Bootstrap 5 and the current Argus integration solutions can absolutely handle whatever you're trying to build.
Let's talk about the broader ecosystem. How are other developers handling this uncertainty?
Well, looking at the GitHub discussions, there's definitely anxiety in the community. People are asking about migration paths from WAC imports to WAC use AX EE forward even before Bootstrap 6 is released. Some developers are already migrating their SaaS to use Dart SaaS instead of Node SaaS, which is smart preparation for the eventual Bootstrap 6 transition.
And what about alternative frameworks? Are people jumping ship?
Some are exploring alternatives, but Bootstrap remains one of the most widely used CSS frameworks in the world. The uncertainty around V6 hasn't changed that fundamental reality. Plus, for enterprise integrations like Argus, you want stability and widespread support. Bootstrap's ecosystem and documentation are still unmatched.
So, if you're starting a new NixWave Argus project today, what's your step-by-step recommendation?
First, set up Bootstrap 5, 3.8 via CDN to avoid build complexity. Second, design your Argus integration around those API rate limits from day one. Third, keep your custom styling minimal and well documented. Fourth, build in good error handling and caching for the API calls. And fifth, stay informed about Bootstrap 6 progress, but don't let it paralyze your current development.
That's really practical advice. Any final thoughts on navigating this transition period?
The key insight is that uncertainty is just part of web development. Frameworks evolve, APIs change, but the fundamental principles of good architecture remain constant. Build modular, testable code. Document your decisions. Plan for change. Those practices will serve you well whether Bootstrap 6 arrives next year or in 3 years.
Exactly. And honestly, the fact that Bootstrap maintainers are being transparent about the timeline uncertainty is actually reassuring. They're not rushing into breaking changes.
Absolutely. When they say they need to complete several features and finalize breaking changes before even an alpha release, that shows they're taking this seriously.
So when you step back from all this, here's what really matters. You don't need to wait for Bootstrap 6 to build great Argus integrations. The tools exist today.
Exactly. Bootstrap 5, 3.8 is mature and stable. The Argus integration solutions are available and documented. The only real constraint is that API rate limiting, which is a design challenge, not a blocker.
And when Bootstrap 6 does arrive, if you've built your integration thoughtfully, the migration will be manageable. It's mostly about build tooling changes, not fundamental architectural shifts.
Right. The core Bootstrap concepts, the grid system, utility classes, component structure, those aren't going anywhere. You're learning transferable skills.
Here's what I want you to take away from this conversation. Stop waiting for perfect conditions. Bootstrap 5 plus current Argus tools can handle whatever integration you're planning. Start building today, design around those API constraints, and keep your code clean and modular. When Bootstrap 6 finally arrives, you'll be ready to adapt. Remember that GitHub discussion where the maintainer said Bootstrap 6 won't be soon? That's not a problem. That's permission to stop waiting and start building. Thanks for joining us on Copilot Podcasts.
And so the Bootstrap 6, though, will handle your standard DDoS attacks, right? That's the main thing. It's not only for queuing up API calls, it keeps them from coming. You keep them coming in and affecting the system. That's what basically a DDoS attack is overwhelms the system with calls and causes it to shut down. So the, the, this is why I was developing for DIA. Mainly, it was like 'cause I was looking at the Bootstrap, I archived it and archived their site, and it was like I was like, yeah, that's why we're having problems. So I guess we could look at what we got 51 minutes. We got to look at Stellaire real quick. I didn't have my rotate screen on, so it's hard to control like that. Anyway, sideways. So here she is in Aquarius. The moon's done moved way off over Mercury. Moon Mercury conjunction in a couple hours. 1, 2, 3. Moon Mercury conjunction. at moonset here. Moonset. After the sun goes down. Run. No. Anything else coming up? The moon. The next several days. Oh, it goes through Pleiades. Oops. Through Pleiades. Goes to Taurus on 23rd. Oops. 23rd. Goes to Taurus. And then on over to, should be going Gemini and Jupiter. Right there. On the 27th. Night of the 27th. Yeah, it's full. To Virgo. And March 9th is when conspiracy Grok told me to look out for. So I would assume it'd be probably this right here. Moon in Scorpio on the 10th. Because, AI can make mistakes sometimes. I imagine that's what that is. Libra, of course, on the 9th. So the 9th through the 11th, probably see some military actions too. But that's when the conspiracy bot said to look out for New Madrid stuff. So, okay. Here's where we're sitting right now. Jupiter rising. Probably start seeing some earthquakes in between. Jupiter coming up to center point here. That's what I expect to see. Maybe something northern hemisphere. It's this time right here tonight. So anyway, got almost an hour. And thanks for everybody who stopped in. I know I haven't been doing regular live streams. You can't see chat, so it is what it is, folks. I'll get that rare information out, but it's in my posts and on my X account if you want it. Good luck.